welcome to today's Lunchtime Learn, all around the fundamentals of successful talent management. So before I get into it, Chris, do you want to give a quick introduction to My People Club in case we've got any new people joining and watching?
Yeah, absolutely. So My People Club's an online membership for HR people and coaches and trainers. So it's a place where you can get loads of templates, resources, which I'll talk to you in just a second about. James and I are the co-owners, and we get involved in lots of organisations, and we do lots of stuff for different organisations, some of which you can see below there. Now, in terms of some of the stuff that you can find on the platform, in terms of HR, there's just so many template letters, documents, trackers, advice guides, loads of stuff that you will need as a HR professional. I've been in HR over 20 years, and it's everything that I use sort of in day-to-day stuff. So you'll find all that in the HR section. In the coaching and training sections, you will also find just so much stuff in terms of templates, case studies, stuff that you can do in group sessions, slide packs. And stuff that is also going to move you from being a better manager to a leader. So we've got loads of development stuff in there as well that you can use on yourself or with your teams. So it's really packed full of brilliant resources. As well as all the sort of resource centre, we also have other things going on the platform. So every month we have an outside expert that hosts a masterclass for us, and we've got some amazing people involved. A lot of them are in the group already, so check them out. And it's an opportunity to really learn as well. So we want you to continue that CPD that you all have to do, and this is a great way to do that. So you've got masterclasses, there's quizzes, there's Q&A sessions. And then we also have a business directory and a discount area. So we have great partners who offer members discounts, so like bars, restaurants, really nice places like the Botanist as well. And then corporate businesses, so stuff that you need in your sort of day-to-day working environment. We've got loads of partners that offer discounts as well. And one of the things that we really wanted to do with My People Club is create that one-stop shop. So if you need first aid stuff or stationery or legal support or whatever it might be, that you can actually come to our platform first and have a look through the directory and find recommended people that you can obviously get in touch with, and a lot of those, like I say, offer discounts to our members.
So I will crack on with today's subject of talent management, and there's essentially 4 areas that I'm going to cover. One is about having a consistent assessment approach when you think about talent. Secondly, we'll look at communication, so it's important to be open and transparent. We'll then look at how you flex any talent management programs and initiatives to individuals' needs, and then also how you make those programs different. How do you stand out and make them different from other programs within your business, and maybe even different from other businesses as well. So a couple of motivational and inspirational quotes here. I believe that every person is born with talent, and why hide your talent in the closet of complacency when you have greatness within you? I like these because I think talent is something that is there within all of us, and we need to identify when we have a passion for something, when we've got a real ambition for something and we are talented at that thing, and then have the bravery and the confidence and to be in the right environment where we can stick our hand up and say, I really want to become very good at this. I want to be known for this talent. I want to progress it. I want to be something that defines who I am in my career, and be within an organization that really embraces that. So this Lunchtime Learn, is very much focused around organizations who are looking to implement talent management and have a good assessment and program approach. So let's start on the topic of consistency. Now, there are lots of different models that you can apply when it comes to talent management. You can have a 4-box model, a 6-box model, a 9-box model. I'm working with a client in the moment, and they're just trying to move from a 4-box model to a 6, because what they find is when they have talent management discussions, they find it really hard to put people in one of the boxes, because they have a good go at it, and then they look at the top right box, which is their high performing, high potential people. They compare the people within the box and say, but they're not the same, so we need to move one. But I don't want to move one to the top left where it says the lower performance. So it's better to increase the number of boxes we've got, so it allows more flexibility in your assessment. But then it can become harder, because then you have a long discussion around, oh, which box do I put them in? So you've got to choose the right model, which is good for your organization. I think good for the number of people you want to be assessing as talent and where they are on this model, but also to think about the culture of your business. If you're quite a good, quick decision-making type of organization, then a small model could work for you. If you've got kind of a long protracted discussion around decisions, around whose talent, where do they sit, then a model like this, a 9-box one, would allow you to have a bit more discussion around it. So when you've agreed on the model, stick with it, and then remember that it applies to everyone. So it is ultimately about identifying who are your highest talent, who are the people who have the biggest potential and are performing the best. But equally, it's about identifying and helping your lower performers as well. So if you've got people in that bottom left box, maybe the kind of the bottom left grouping of boxes where they need some improvement in their current role, then it's important that you're brave enough to put people in that box and then have the right conversation with them, which we'll come to in a second. It's no good just focusing on the people that are in the top right and then putting them onto a program. You've got people in your organization who could be performing better, they could be showing more potential, perhaps they just don't have any feedback to help them, perhaps they're maybe in the wrong role. Now, when you do have a model and you've got people in there, then calibrate how you do your assessment, because my view of how I might put someone in this model could be different to Christina's view of how she puts the same person in a model. Or if we both had similar operating people at similar levels with the same degree of experience in a business, we might put them in different boxes, because our view of what potential looks like, our view of what performance looks like, could be different. So it's important to have some definitions of what exceeds expectations and meets expectations and needs development looks like, as well as high potential, growth potential, and limited potential. But also make sure that you run calibration sessions, particularly if you're perhaps in a kind of a HR role within the organization and you are facilitating talent conversations. Then just make sure that people are approaching it consistently, and maybe use some case studies, use some examples. So you could make one up. You could come to us and we can help you put a case study together, where you might say, we've got Bob is in accounts, and this is a view of Bob's performance over the year. This is what we think of his potential. Where would you put him on the grid? Here is Janet. Janet is in sales, and here's her performance. Here's her potential. Where would you put them? So it's theoretical. It's not about real people, but you get to see how your managers and how your leaders use this model and make sure it's consistent. And importantly, it has to be as objective as possible. There will sometimes be some subjectivity, and having that calibration helps to reduce that. But particularly when you look at potential, that's where some of that subjectivity can creep in. So the more data you can enrich this process with, the better. So you've got data analytics within HR around performance scores, around employee engagement data for people maybe as a manager or a leader. You might have information around their previous appraisal scores, feedback from people, 360 feedback, whatever all this different data is you've got on how people perform, the potential that they've got, use it as much as possible so it becomes as fact-based as possible. So get the right model in place, whether it's something like this, a 9-box model, or even as small as a 4-box model, and stick with it. Remember, it's about everyone in the population that you're assessing, whether they're talented or perhaps lower performers. Be consistent, use case studies, and use data as much as possible. Now, when you have done that, you've then got to talk to people about it. You've then got to talk to your people that you've put in the top right to say, we've identified you as high talent because of your performance, your potential, but you've also got to talk to those people who you've put in the bottom left. And that's a harder conversation. There's a lot of managers and leaders in organizations who aren't yet equipped to have those courageous conversations. They're perhaps more used to having conversations talking about successes and positive feedback. So explain the process that you've gone through, explain the model, show people the model. And you don't show them where everyone has been placed in there, but you can show that person where they've been placed and why. So refer back to that data that I just talked about, so people understand. And use examples. If you've brought examples to the table in that discussion of why people are performing and where you think and why you think they're showing potential, then share those examples, share feedback that you've had from other people in the organization, so it brings it to life. People will understand the context of the feedback, and they'll understand the context of why you've put them in that talent model as you have. Now, when you have the discussions with people, explore their aspirations with them. This is where the potential bit comes in. People are different, and you'll know from lots of our other Lunchtime Learns, we talk around different behavioral skills and personality skills, but people are different. You can have two people in your organization, and in fact, we've got a blog about this, who are equally capable, of doing a job, of moving and progressing to a higher level within the organization, a bigger remit, a bigger scope, whatever it might be. But their personality might not show itself, or might show itself in different ways in terms of letting you know that they're really hungry for that. So you might have someone who is just chomping at the bit, they're very outgoing, very, very extroverted, and they always want to let you know that they're ready for the next big thing. And so you would look at their performance and the potential in that. You might then have someone else who thinks that actually the right thing to do is to wait until the conversation is brought to them. And so you never get a view of how aspirational they are and how much potential they've got, because they're not telling you, they're not showing you. So always invite a really good conversation around people's career ambitions, their aspirations, and where they want to progress. And that you can marry up with where you've put them on that talent profile, so you have the right discussions. Now, as I said, sometimes you've got to talk to people who have been put in that bottom left in those red and orange boxes, where perhaps there's more work they can do in their career, more support is needed. Maybe they are in the wrong job. Maybe they were the wrong person hired for a job, and actually they're better off somewhere else in the organization for them and for you. Or maybe they're better in a different organization. Maybe the culture just isn't right for them. But by having this great conversation, you will explore that. But your managers, the people who have got to have those conversations, need to be confident. So if you can give them some coaching, some training in courageous conversations, in giving feedback, then please do so. If you're one of our members, go into our documents around coaching, and particularly around leadership development, and you'll see some documents in there around giving and receiving feedback. There's some examples, some exercises that you can go through to help you become more confident around having those types of discussions with people. So how do we flex to individual needs? I talked around the fact that people are different. People will let you know in different ways that they are quite aspirational. You'll know again from documents we've got within the Resource Centre and some of the Lunchtime Learns we've done, and even one of our masterclasses, that we have different learning styles. People learn in different ways. Some people learn by reading, understanding the theory, and they can just apply it straight away. Other people will learn through doing something, being thrown into the deep end of a situation, finding their way out, finding out what works. Some people prefer to watch and reflect. Maybe they like to involve other people. But think about when you're putting a talent program in place to support your talented individuals, in fact, to a larger degree, to support a lot of your kind of leadership development and management development, think about the different learning styles that you can apply. Think about blended learning with a mix of reflection time, classroom time, whether that's face-to-face or virtual, reading, watching videos, Lunchtime Learns, masterclasses, etc., all that kind of thing. And think about the capacity that people have to do this learning. What often happens with talent programs is that they seek to put the people who have been identified as the talent into a program that's over and above their day job. So somehow they've got to find the time to be off site for 2 days, to go on a emotional intelligence program, or to go on a making an impact on the business program, whatever it might be. But they've still got to do their day job on top. So you've got to think about making sure that it's realistic for people to do. Also think about how you involve other people in the business. So it's also quite often that you'll kind of get a group of talent to work on special projects. And I think I'm going to touch on this in a minute. And those special projects are often things that the business want to explore. They've never had the time, they've never had the money, they've never had the capacity to look at some new options. It might be new products, new services, new markets to break into, new ways of working. So you think, great, let's put our talent on a little hit squad to do that. But remember that it takes up their time. It would then take up time maybe of your board, of your other leaders who would have to give input, who'd have to review what they're doing, assess what they're doing. So when you're thinking about these growth options and thinking about development options, just be really mindful of how much time it will take up for people. And let people know what's expected of them and what isn't expected of them. Because some people often get a bit of a false impression when they have a talent conversation. They're told they're in the top right of that model and that great things are abound once they engage and prove themselves and show themselves. Then be clear on what you expect of them. Be clear on what the outcome can look like, what the future outcome can be, but also be clear on what it isn't and what you're not expecting them to do. And continue providing them with the support, and whether that's through their managers, whether that's through kind of your talent development team, HR business partners, just make sure that they are constantly supported as they go through that talent program, because it will be something different, it will be something special, and it'll be something on top of everything else that they've got to do. Now, when it comes to offering something different, and I've just started to touch on this, then definitely think beyond the training room. Think about other stuff that can be done. So there's lots of things and ways in which people can learn on and off the job. So on the job learning could be things like mentoring other people, coaching other people, shadowing someone, shadowing a leader, shadowing a board member, shadowing someone whose position they are lined up to be the successor in. It could, opportunities that are off the job could be about doing external coaching and mentoring. It could be maybe about kind of running groups that are more involved with groups in your community, groups in your family, and so on. But also think about kind of what other resources you can give to people and what you expect of them in terms of, are they meant to use these resources, whether that's online learning, whether it's books, videos, etc.? Are they meant to do that kind of in their day job and within that time, or outside of it and above that, as I referred to earlier? And as I said, think about, when you are being creative, when you're thinking of new ideas, just be realistic. Remember that these things take up time, they take up a bit more money, they take up other people's time and so on. So when you're thinking of something really good and creative and different as a talent program, then think about what's else involved. A great example that I can give you of both extremes of where it works was a program that was being proposed within a company that I spent quite a lot of my corporate career with. And they wanted to do that example I just referred to around becoming a special group, like a hit squad. And they said, actually, if these people are great strategic thinkers, if they're really able to influence people, connect people, make quick decisions, analyze data, bring in the outside thinking into the inside, then they'll be great at thinking of how we break into a brand new market. But of course, that meant a lot of time for them in terms of research, getting together, collaborating, meeting in groups to understand who's doing what, going off and doing it, coming back, then presenting back to their senior leaders, to the board, maybe putting business cases together, sharing them with finance. That started to take up a lot of time and actually just didn't work well. It didn't really create an opportunity for people to show their talent. It actually became more of a distraction and more of a headache for everyone involved. So that wasn't a good approach. What was a better approach was to put a program together that would last a whole year, and the group that were in the talent program would come together 3 times for 3 specific interventions. And it was planned in advance. So the first one might have been, say, in March, the next one in July or August, and the next one, say, October, November. So that meant that they had plenty of time as individuals to think about who they delegate to for that week. Who can hold the fort? Who can manage the team? Who can be the delegated authority, the people to make the decisions in the heat of the moment, and just keep the ship steady whilst they are off on this program. So that meant they had that time, and it could practice their delegation skills, to prove their trust, to think about their team and any upskilling they needed, which are all great qualities of being a leader. Then when they were on the program, they went through 3 different modules. So that first week together was all around their self-awareness and emotional intelligence, which at the time, going back a few years, was still a bit of an unknown thing. It wasn't something that was as commonplace now in businesses as it used to be. But it meant people started to think about, am I thriving or am I surviving? When am I okay? When am I not okay? What's the impact that my behavior has on other people? And they really thought about themselves for a week, really submersive experience, and thought about themselves. They then went back into work and they could start applying some of that new knowledge, those skills, those beliefs, those values into their day jobs and perhaps into their lives on a wider scale, and put it into practice. And then a few months later, they'd come together for the second module, which of course they've planned for. They've delegated the work. They've got someone who's going to run the team. Everything's going to carry on as normal. And that second module was then all around their impact as a leader, as a manager. How do they get the best out of their team? And they explored a lot of their own existing skills, practiced some new ones, did some role play exercises, looked at some theory, had some guest speakers coming in. So they came away after that week not only really self-aware, but also ready to be awesome leaders of their people. So again, they went back, they applied that learning. And then last module of the year, they came back together and they looked at the impact they make on the business. So at this point, they're very self-aware. At this point, they're brilliant leaders and they've got a team that can practically run itself because they've done all the right stuff. Now they're thinking about, how do I drive this business forward? How do I bring in some outside thinking? How do I think more strategically? How do I just take my objectives and make them even better? How do I kind of really hit stretch results and move this business forward? And how do I do it with my colleagues, with my peers? So over the course of a year, it was a program that really developed them as a person, as a manager, and as a leader of the business. Nothing became disrupted because they had time to plan and delegate and make sure everything was taken care of while they were away. And at the end of it, you've got a group of people who you've identified as talent who've gone through a fantastic program and are upskilled and are going to make an even bigger difference for your business. That's a much better way of doing it than involving a lot of people over a short space of time and creating more stress and more anxiety and more problems. So I just wanted to share those examples as a way of getting it right. And it's important to step back and think about, what are we trying to achieve? What's the outcome here? What do we want to achieve at the end of our talent program? And how do we go about it in the least impactful way and the most productive and enjoyable way? So that brings me to a close in terms of the fundamentals of successful talent management. I'm just going to hand back to Chris to close with a few important messages.
Thanks, James. There's some really, really good messages in there. So I hope people find that useful. And yeah, definitely some really good tips on how to manage that process. So thank you for that. So we have got our shop open now. So basically, if you go to the website, you'll see our shop. So there is courses from My People Club and from James and my consultancies, but also we have opened it up to other people. So as you can see, other people are getting involved. It's only £97 to advertise for a whole year because we didn't want to make it too expensive for people or anything like that. We don't take any commission or anything. So you put whatever you want on your page of the website, with links to your website or to your course or to whatever it is that you want to sell. So if you are interested in that, drop us an email, the address is there, and we will have a chat with you and get you set up. It can all be done really quickly as well, so get involved with that. In other news, you can get in touch with us in a whole host of ways. You can email us, you can get in touch via the website, you can get involved through one of the contact forms. So there's loads of ways that you can get involved or ask us questions or just get involved with the community. If you're watching this in the group, then obviously you're part of that community as well, so you can ask questions in here. And finally, if you haven't seen us on some of the other channels, and obviously we're on Facebook, we're also on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we will also have a podcast in the new year as well. So keep your eyes peeled for more information on that. So that's all that's left to say. I hope you've had a really good Lunchtime Learn with us, and we will see you next time, which won't be a Lunchtime Learn. It'll be more like a Christmas festivity and quiz and things, and we might even have a couple of cheeky giveaways, so you want to join us for that. But if we don't see you before, have a great Christmas. We hope to see you in 2 weeks' time for our last one of the year, and have a good week, guys.
Take care.